Thank you for your patience, everyone. I know we're starting a little bit later than anticipated, but everything happens right on time. So thank you for joining us today for the February 6, 2024 Planning and Zoning Committee meeting. I'm going to call this meeting to order at this is not the correct time, at 6:12 p.m. First thing on the agenda is for us to have our silent meditation and pledge. So if you could join me for silent meditation and pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may have a seat. Madam Clerk, may I please have the roll call?
Roll call. Chair Martin.
Present.
Member Nickerson.
Here.
Also present for the record, Janice Jacoby, Village Clerk, Christy Alou, Village Manager, Joseph Geller, Village Attorney, Pedro from CAP, Fitz from Code Enforcement, and Scarlett from the Correino Group.
Okay, let's go ahead we're going to skip forward a bit and go to our presentation, our item F1, which is the launch at Little River. Can we have you step up to the podium and give us that presentation, please? Thank you so much.
Yes,
And could you please state your name and address for the record?
absolutely. Good evening, Madam Chair, member, village staff. My name is Brett Brummond with the Goldstein Environmental Law Firm. We have offices at 2100 Ponce de Leon Boulevard in Coral Gables, and I'm here today on behalf of the launch at Little River LLC. So thank you for having me here this evening. This is intended to be just a broad overview presentation of a request that the launch at Little River LLC made back in November of 2023 to request that their property be designated as a green reuse area pursuant to Florida's Brownfields Redevelopment Act for the purpose of assessing environmental conditions and addressing contamination caused by the property's historical uses. So I'll keep this presentation very brief and have an opportunity for you to ask any questions towards the end. But the applicant owns property located at the end of Northeast 4th Place, right next to the Little River, near the Cavista project, and near the former mobile home park. And just to start, this is a request to participate in Florida's Brownfields Redevelopment Program. So some key definitions here are what a brownfield site and a brownfield area are. So a brownfield site is defined as real property, the expansion, redevelopment, or reuse of which is complicated by actual or perceived environmental contamination. And a brownfield area is a creation of the statute. It means a contiguous area of one or more brownfield sites, some of which may not be contaminated, that is created by a local government by resolution. So in practice, a brownfield area, which is what the applicant has requested that the Village Council create, is sort of a mini economic development area in which property owners can access incentives from the state that come at no cost to the village to clean up the contamination that they found there when they purchased the property. So this property in particular is an area of the village that has a long environmental history, particularly former agricultural uses and commercial uses. So if you're familiar with the area near the former mobile home park, that area had formerly cultivated row crops. It also had a poultry farm and a plant nursery. Also in the area were some dry cleaning facilities. So that has led to environmental contamination from those historical uses. There's a lot of environmental data from the surrounding properties, including the Cavista project directly across the street from this site, which was designated as a Florida brownfield area by the village several years ago, as was the former mobile home park. The Cavista project has successfully addressed their contamination nearly to the end state. There's still some ongoing groundwater monitoring there post-construction, but that is a Florida brownfield redevelopment project success story. So the applicant is hoping to achieve that same goal here through their redevelopment project. In particular, at the site, the applicant did identify in their early site assessment activities some arsenic in soil and groundwater that exceed the criteria for residential use. So this contamination will be addressed during the redevelopment process under the oversight of Miami-Dade County DERM. The redevelopment plan here is an 8-story mixed-use development with 152 residential units and a roughly 2,500 square foot restaurant space. We expect 10 permanent full-time jobs to be created at the property, and will include on-site amenities including water access, a fitness center, a pool deck, and 193 parking spaces. And of course, the redevelopment is still subject to approval by the village, and that'll be coming at a future date. So the process we're going through now is just to continue to assess and address the contamination at the property. We expect construction to start in the first quarter of 2025 and wrap up in 2026. And then taking a step back, looking at the program more generally, it was created in 1997 as a tool for local governments to work with private property owners to address contamination that they found at their property that was caused by somebody else in the past. It's equally available to both public and private property owners, and it comes with financial, legal, and regulatory incentives that ultimately reduce the cost of cleanup and make it a little bit easier for the property owner to move forward. Statewide, it's a very popular program. There are nearly 600 designated brownfield areas across the state, many in Miami-Dade County. Actually, this property is the only property that is not designated as a Florida brownfield area in that area of the village. As I mentioned, the former mobile home park, the Cavista project, and then the city of Miami has designated much of the city of Miami as a brownfield area as well, as a way to allow property owners to access these incentives without coming to request a resolution from the local government every time. All right, and so the process is relatively simple. It's governed by statute. It requires adoption of a resolution by the village council following 2 advertised public hearings. This is not one of those public hearings. This is just an informational session. We also held a community meeting on December 14th as part of the process, but it really just requires notice to the public, conducting those 2 public hearings, and then considering 5 objective criteria for designation. Those criteria, I won't go into them in depth today because there are still 2 public hearings coming up, but I'll point them out. The first is that the designation must be requested by someone who owns or controls the property. They must have a redevelopment plan, and they must agree to address any contamination that they find, in this case under the oversight of Miami-Dade County DERM. The second, the project must result in economic productivity in the area and create at least 5 jobs. Third, the redevelopment must be consistent with local comprehensive plan and be generally permittable in the city. The fourth is that notice must be provided through posting and publication, and the applicant must give those receiving notice an opportunity to comment and ask questions. And finally, the applicant must provide reasonable assurances they have the financial resources to complete cleanup and redevelopment of the project. And so that was just a brief overview. So we will be back for 2 public hearings, I believe on February 26th and March 27th are at the next 2 village council meetings. And if you have any questions, I'm available. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that presentation. I'll first ask my colleagues if they have any questions, and I do want it noted that Councilman Perella is in the meeting, and perfect, we have a quorum. So just wanted to know if Councilman Perella or Mr. Mayor, if you guys have any questions.
No question, but just wanted to make a quick comment, Madam Chair, if I may. Just wanted to say very quickly that I appreciate them coming here. And, you know, this is a testament to, you know, the respect that they have for you, Madam Chair, and your Planning and Zoning Committee, and for the village as a whole, because, you know, per state statute, they only had to present this at the 2 council meetings. But, you know, them coming to a committee meeting to take it through Planning and Zoning and present it to us is important, and I think shows the respect that you know the village of Upper Tile deserves, the Planning and Zoning Committee deserves, and Madam Chair, you deserve, and I just appreciate them being here. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Attorney.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Madam Chair. And just, I mean, Mr. Berman had a lot to say, but I just want to say to you, the bottom line here is on Brownfield, that our village gets cleaned up and has environmental issues that have existed for a long time taken care of and dealt with by DERM, and the money comes from the state, and I think some of it is a pass-through from the federal government too. So it's not our money, but it cleans up this village. It's kind of a win-win for the village. There's not a downside. all I wanted to throw in. Thank you, Madam Chair.
And thank you so much for the comment. Definitely a win-win. And thank you for the presentation. We appreciate you. I am going to rewind us a little bit to subsection D so that we can have a motion to approve the agenda.
Madam Chair, motion to approve the agenda.
Do I have a second? Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Say nay. Hearing none, it seems like the agenda is approved. We'll move on to subsection E, which is approval of the minutes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes for the October 17th Planning and Zoning Committee meeting?
Madam Chair, I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. All right, hearing none, it seems like that motion is approved. Now we can go ahead and move forward to subsection G because we just did subsection F and heard that great presentation. Thank you again for that. Moving on to G1, which is 360 Northeast 85th Street. Can I have the applicant and also city staff join me at the podium? If you guys could both state your name and address for the record.
Sure. I'm Adam Simon, 360 Northeast 85th.
Okay.
Scarlett Hammonds with the Cordina Group.
Awesome. Scarlett, can I have the staff report on this item, please?
Yes. Sorry.
Where's everybody else today?
Hmm?
Where's everybody else today?
You got everybody you need.
All right. If you say so. If you say so.
So good evening.
All right, Scarlett.
This is an application by Mr. Adam Simon, who is present, and he is requesting a variance to install a new underground pool and also to have a fence and screen around that in his front yard. The request really has to do with the requirement for a front setback of 45 feet, which the pool would not meet that setback where he's proposing to locate it. He's requesting that it be located about 34 feet from the front yard, and it would be for the pool and also for pool equipment. The required, also he's going to exceed maximum lot coverage by a few percentage points, increasing just slightly over from what it is today, from 43% to 44%. And just to note that this would be basically because of the counting of the equipment for the pool. That is the increase of the lot coverage. And he has presented a justification for his variance is that his rear yard is really much too small to have a pool in. It's only about 7 feet from the river location. So we have, spoke with him and reviewed this per the code and found that it meets the requirements for a variance and for the lot coverage and for the setback reduction. And this is in harmony with the general intent of the zoning code and also the comprehensive plan. And our recommendation is that this be approved. We do have a few conditions that we would like to bring to your attention for your consideration. The one is that the existing concrete pad on the east side of the property be removed, and that is also noted on his plans that he's submitted. So I know that he's planning to do that, but just wanted to put that on the record. The property is located in an archaeologically significant location, and so therefore we have a condition to address that, basically that he will comply with the county's designation and that comply with all the regulations that go along with any digging or excavating in this property. And also that prior to the building permit, that the applicant submit an application for the safety barrier to enclose the pool, just so that we're ensured that he will put a fence around the pool, since it's located in a location on the lot that can be accessible.
And thank you so
That
much.
concludes.
Thank you. And Mr. Simon, just before I open it up to my colleagues, I just want your confirmation that you're aware of those, I suppose, those additional criteria that Scarlett has set forth, and you're willing to comply with those three
Yes.
things: the enclosure, the respecting of the excavation site rules, and the first one was the removal of that concrete slab.
Yep.
Perfect.
Madam Chair, I'd
yes.
ask then that the record reflect that the applicant has accepted the conditions on the record.
Okay. Thank you so much, keeping us clean, and I appreciate that. Now I will open it up to my colleagues. Does anyone have a question for either Scarlett or for Mr. Simon about this item?
Madam Chair, if I may.
Sure.
Not really a question, but so you know, Sherwood Forest, and I know where Mr. Simon's house is. I hang flyers on it frequently, and so just so people kind of can picture it or understand, because through the description, you know, what you can't see from the description that's being given is the amount of foliage that's in front of his property. So when you're walking down his property is right by the Native American Tequesta Mound, and so it's directly south of that, and a couple houses down. And so from the street, as you're walking past it, you really don't even know if there's a house there. Like, you really can't even tell there's a house there unless you make a choice to turn up, notice the small amount of concrete, and go down the driveway and go down a very large hill until you get down to his house. You have to walk down a long way. And I saw where he's planning on putting the pool. And so I just want people to understand that you're not talking about, as you're walking or driving past his property, that you're going to be able to look over and see kids splashing in the pool, or that it is even close to where the front of his property is. There is a large group of trees and plants and thick foliage before you even get to that area that he's planning on putting the pool, which is directly north of the entrance of his property. And I remember when we had the storms, and I was doing the sandbags and all that type of stuff, and I went to the back of his property, and even at that point, I remember saying to Mr. Simon, I was like, man, like, your seawall is this, and the flooding's coming up, and so the back of the property, there's no room back there.
No.
Like, not at all. Like, as soon as you pass where his physical house is, it's like from here to like there's no room in the back,
Yeah.
like, at all. So I just want to kind of give people a sense, because I don't want people to think that you're talking about walking past and it's just an open front yard and people suntanning and, running around the pool. It's not like that. You don't even know if there's a house there unless you really look for it.
Yeah.
So,
And the design of the pool will fit the environment. And I put 600 plants on my property when I moved in 12 years ago. So it was a lawn that kind of sloped down. It's no longer that. It's natural. It's basically looks part of the environment. So the pool, obviously, we recently had a son, is for him, and we want to make sure that obviously the safety functions are involved. But you're, as the mayor said, you're not going to be able to see the pool at all. Even if you come down the driveway, you won't even be able to see the pool.
And even the pool can't be a large pool, because of all the foliage and all the plants and things that are there. The area for the pool is not that large for that area. So it's not even going to be. It's not like Olympic size pool or a huge pool. The pool is from the way his property is. The pool, will be like a tropical enclave amongst like a tropical forest. That's kind of how it's going to look. Absolutely, because it's surrounded by thick trees and plants, and it's beautiful back there. But yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely.
And so, I'm sorry, let me, so, and the property, the reason why the pool is gonna be placed and that it's been, proposed to be placed in that, frontage is because of also the septic tank, it's in the front.
That's correct, yeah.
And you have the drain field there. Now, this question is for, staff. You said about the frontage is how much?
The required setback?
setback?
45 feet.
45 feet.
Yeah, so it's
And
pretty
we're at
significant.
33.7?
Right.
Okay. And when you talk about screening required by the county, is the screen that goes around the pool?
Well, yeah, there's going to be a safety screen for
Safety screen
for
around the
a
pool.
kid for kids. Yeah, obviously, but
But then when we're talking about the fence has to be in front of the house now then, right?
Correct, because the pool is slightly in
And
front of the house.
so there's
yeah.
another variance for that. That has to,
It's combined, yes, with the,
this is combined,
yes.
but it's not in the paperwork. I don't see the elevation for how the fence is
Oh,
gonna
no,
look.
he hasn't
or
applied
what
for
type of
that. He has
material.
not applied for the fence
Okay.
yet. No, that'll be a separate building permit when he has the plans for the fence. But the requirement right now, and it's actually part of the conditions of approval before he's able to apply for his building permit for the pool, he's gotta apply for the
Yeah.
fence permit.
And I remember Juan from Pluservia, our urban planner, talking about technically, if he were to, he has space, actually he has room to bring the house up to how many feet? And then if the house will be up to the front a little more, then the pool will be basically on
Behind
the
it, it would-
behind it.
Or on the side,
So by
yes,
law,
side
he's
behind
allowed
it,
to
yeah.
actually extend the house all the way to the front till
Furthermore,
setback.
I think it's 25 feet is a setback?
Right, 25 feet.
Yeah, so yeah, and his
So-
house is much more setback
It's
than that.
much more
yeah.
setback than that.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Does that conclude our comments? If so, I'll close the comments from the body and open it up to any of those attending if they would like to speak on this item. Hearing none, I'll close this public comment, bring it back to the body. I personally had a lot of questions, especially as it relates to this becoming an attractive nuisance with having a pool in the front of a property. In addition to that, I do believe that with every variance we approve, we're also setting precedent that this is something that is allowable in the village. But I can take the council. I do remember that we had an extensive conversation about this at the previous, I think, Planning and Zoning Committee meeting or one of the council meetings. I do understand that your property is unique, and because of the uniqueness of that property, I do believe that maybe a variance in this situation might not set as unfortunate of a precedent as I am envisioning. So I think we have a good handle on what the issues are and the pros and cons of the issue, and we might be ready to take a vote on this item. So does anyone want to move to approve staff or accept the staff's recommendation?
Madam Chair, I'll accept staff recommendation, make a motion to approve.
Okay, do we have a second?
Excuse me for interrupting, Mayor. Mayor, is your motion, when you say staff, to approve it
With con-
staff recommend, but approve it with the conditions of record?
Yeah, but so when I accept the staff recommendation, that comes with the conditions. You know, because the staff recommendation came with the conditions, right? I got you.
Do I have a second?
This is
I'll-
a tough one.
You'll second it?
No.
Okay, I'll second it. Madam Clerk, can I have a roll call, please?
Roll call. Member Nickerson,
Yes.
Member Perrella,
Yes.
Chair Martin.
No.
Motion passes 2-1.
All right.
Your son can have a pool.
Have a good one. Enjoy your pool.
Well, this
you
is
need to come
planning and
to the-
zoning, so he needs to come to the
You need to
full-
come to the hearing for March. that we-
Perfect.
You need to see the clerk in the back.
See the clerk afterwards, and she'll let you know what the follow-up steps are, but we'll move along to item G2. Can I have the applicant for 1 Northeast 87th Street step up to the podium and please state your name and address for the record?
Jorge Davila, 1 Northeast 87th Street.
Thank you for joining us. Can I have staff's report on this item, please?
Thank you, yes. The applicant is requesting a variance. He has already planted hedges, so this would be an after-the-fact variance. The hedges surround the property on the principal setback and also in the side yard setback. This property is located at 1 Northeast 87th Street, and the hedges that he has planted are podocarpus. And that is, just to note, it's on the Florida Landscaping Approved list, and it's a non-invasive type of plant. The the primary justification for this location of the hedges is that it is needed for a visual barrier to screen the home. It's located on quite a busy corner, North Miami Avenue and Northeast 87th Street. These are two quite busy streets, and they're, headlights and other kind of nuisance activity could be seen from the house, so that this is considered a screening for that purpose. For the variance, the code has limitations on where the hedges can be and how tall they can be in the front yards and side yards, and not permitted to be taller than 4 feet in height. These, except if they were in the side yard, they could be approximately 15 feet from the side property line, which these are located on the property line, so that's the reason for the variance. The grant was reviewed per the code and found that with one condition, that this variance approval would be in harmony with the general intent of the comprehensive plan and harmonious with the village, and also would be compliant with the zoning code. Therefore, staff is recommending this approved, but we also have one suggested condition that the owner maintains that these hedges are no taller than 4 feet, because they can grow to be approximately 20 feet in height. This type of plant.
Is it 4 feet or 6 feet? No taller than 4 feet is your recommendation?
Yes, it is my recommendation.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
To be considered.
Noted. Thank you for the report. I will open it up to the body. Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor Perrella, any comments, Mr. Mayor?
Madam Chair, if I may, thank you very
Yes.
much. Just want to say really, really quickly, met him when I was passing flyers around. You might want to touch on what happened with your daughter a couple of times. And I just want everybody to understand, so this house is at the corner of 87th Street and North Miami Avenue. It's that new, really big, nice house that was redone. The part of the problem is that since this house is new and he's moved into it not very long ago, was that it was for such a long time nobody lived there while it was being redone and built and things like that. And a couple of times we would have like squatters in there. And so I think that part of the issue in a small way might be that since there used to be squatters in there, a couple of times we found squatters in there, or homeless people, we would go around there when it was being built, that people were used to that property, not being occupied. And I think some of this is the remnants of that. Now that there's people in there, I think at first they didn't really know, even once the house was done, that there was a family in there. But even after the family got in there, he's had a couple of scary occasions with his young daughter, which he can talk about. And the way I see it is, whether it's the hedges, and I don't know, on the other side if he's even contemplated a fence or not, but I think on that corner, the way it is, the fence wouldn't even be able to be that high also. So I'm not sure about that on the corner, how a fence would work. But something is definitely needed on that corner with his property. That's for sure. So thank you, Madam Chair.
No worries. Do you have a comment about?
No, not really. Like what the mayor said, once, like at 3 a.m. in the morning, I see people knocking in my daughter's room. That was really scary about it. And also, like at 7 a.m. in the morning, going to my work, I found a guy sleeping in the grass. Like that happened twice. I mean, my main concern is like a safety.
Okay.
I have an alarm, I have cameras, but even if I don't have the hedges, the people is gonna walk through around. That's my main concern.
Okay. Thank you for that comment. Vice Mayor Perrella, do you have a comment on this item?
Yes, I do have a comment about hedges, because there's the hedges and all of that, because it's not the first one, and there's a lot in the neighborhood that being planted without permits and all of that. And the issue is about maintaining the height, like you just said. You know, everybody, you know, most people already know that it shouldn't be more than 4 feet high, at least in the front, right,
Correct,
of the
yes.
house, on the front setback. But then, you know, all of a sudden you see the hedges all the way to 6 or 8 feet high. And, you know, now we have a code enforcement, they can pass around and go around and cite people for that, but it's a constant issue with people planting hedges, especially the clusas or those huge, the podocarpus take time to grow and they're nicer in shape. But other than that, I mean, I don't have any other comments.
Just to clarify with you, like the hedges are planted in the secondary frontage,
Right.
not in the front.
Right,
Okay, I mean, the front in the house is open.
it's open,
It's
yes.
just in the secondary. I mean, the problem is that my house is a corner. I have like a principal frontage and a secondary frontage.
Right. And I'm sorry, yes, I understand, I know exactly where your house is located. And it's not something that is obstructing the view when a traffic light in that corner or anything like that, right?
Oh, no, it's
Okay,
not, no.
perfect, okay.
No. I take your point though, Vice Mayor Pearl. I do think, I mean, what we've been asking for and what we do need is to get like a comprehensive handle on what it is we're going to do about hedges. Because at this point, it just seems like we're just approving everything and anything based on whatever might be perceived as an inconvenience to the property owner. And I do think that those things need to be considered, but we also need to attack it in a comprehensive way that makes sure that for sure we want to honor the owner's desires, but we want to make sure that whatever safety risks are proposed or detriments as it relates to perceived unsafety of the neighborhood, if we have these tall hedges surrounding every house, that those things are addressed too. And I know with podocarpus, they stay really thin and lean, and I'm familiar with your house, so they're not really obstructing that walkway at all. But if someone were to plant something like Clusia, there are properties where those things have definitely presented hazards to those who might have mobility issues or may have small children trying to navigate the few sidewalks that we do have. So I do want us to really take a look at maybe coming up with something more comprehensive. And I know we've said that a million times, and not really sure what the sticking point is, but the fact that we have 2 hedge variances on tonight's agendas, I think it highlights the necessity for us to look at this really expeditiously. But I do take note that your house is unique. If we are to look for a purpose to vary from the norm, you are on 2 busy streets, and I understand how headlights and environmental factors might make it such that you do need some sort of variance. But what I will say is that it is imperative to not let those hedges grow to 8-10 feet or to grow so wide that it impedes that walkway that's next to your home. Are you
Agree.
willing to accept that condition on the record?
Yes, I do.
Okay, of keeping it at the 4 feet? Was
4
it?
is what's suggested.
4 feet.
Yes.
So is that a yes? Can you just say that do you accept that condition?
Yes.
Okay, awesome to hear. I think that concludes the comments from the body. I do want to open it up to those who are attending as guests to see if there are any comments on this particular issue. Let me see how do I want to work this? Yes, I see you, Mr. Pulliam. I'm just thinking of which podium to direct you to. I'll go ahead. Can they share that podium or this one? Okay. Mr. Pulliam, if you could step up to Scarlett's podium and state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Thomas Pulliam, 205 Northeast 86th Street. My comment is that my direct neighbor on my west side has areca plants that are 20 feet high, planted on the property line, on the swale, and also the front setback of the property. I reported that to code enforcement months ago because per our code, if it's, it has to be maintained, first of all, it's not supposed to be there, but it has to be 4 feet if it's up against a driveway. When I reported it, code enforcement didn't do anything with it. So it's curious for me. I would like to know, I thought I heard at the beginning of this, these were plants that are already planted and now it's a posthumous variance. So my question is, how did that come about? Was that through code enforcement or some other means? Thank you.
Sir, who informed you that you had to get a variance? Was it code enforcement?
The code
yeah,
enforcement.
because when I stopped and talked to you, you said mayor,
Yeah,
code enforcement came by.
I came to the city before plan them. Like we have a misunderstanding. They said go ahead, but I suppose not to. And then code enforcement swing by for my house and impose the variance.
Thank you for that. I'm sure Mr. Pulliam, the code enforcement officer, is here. Maybe you can get with him and give him that address.
No, I have, and it was decided
Oh,
not to.
okay. Well, I'll speak to you afterwards. Let's not call out, just so we're all on the mic and it's very clear. But I'll talk to you afterwards about this particular item. Is there any other comments from the guests on this item, 1 Northeast 87th Street? Seeing none, I'll go ahead and close public comment, bring it back to the body. Does anyone have a motion to approve staff's recommendation on this item?
Madam Chair, if I may, before
Sure.
the motion.
Go ahead, Vice Mayor
That
Perala.
was something that you touched on, and what I said about keeping the hedges at the right size,
Right.
height. Thank you. It's, there's any way, and this goes to the lawyer, if he can wake up. Mr.
Let's all calm down for a second.
There's any way after, or actually, code enforcement, I don't know who can answer these. There's any way that it's not in our code, whether after certain citations about the hedge height, can the city actually go ahead and order to have those removed? Let's say, like right now, we are approving this and with the condition to keep them at the at the height that they're supposed to. After 2 or 3 citations, or that should be enough to say, you know what, you're not complying, you should remove them, and that's it.
There could be an order to bring them into compliance. So if they don't comply with the zoning conditions that are set, there can be an order to bring them into compliance. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean removal, and there could be some consequence to removing them entirely if that's not what the violation is. If the violation, I think I heard 4 feet is what's
Right.
permitted. So if they're at 6, you could order them cut back to 4 feet. Now, if you yank them out entirely, there could be adverse consequences to that, and I wouldn't recommend that. But yes, they could be cut back. The village could hire people to cut them back, and the cost of doing that would be imposed as a lien on the property.
Right.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Mr. Mayor.
Remember, you guys, we now have the special magistrate hearing. So if somebody doesn't comply, it's just like if somebody doesn't comply against a code violation, and the special magistrate hearings, the special magistrate hearings happen every month. And so every month, you guys, you have people going to the special magistrate for being out of compliance. So if you don't adhere to the conditions, you're out of compliance, then he can get cited and go to the special magistrate hearing and pay a large, hefty fee. So,
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much for that clarification. Hearing no other questions, does anyone have a motion to go ahead and approve staff's recommendation on item G2?
I move for approval, Madam Chair.
Awesome. Do I have a second? Awesome. Madam Clerk? Or Madam Manager? Can I have a roll?
For the acceptance of the.
Item G2.
Okay.
Mhm.
You know, I'm not versed
I
on
know.
this.
I
I'm
already
not a
know, but you're
clerk.
doing it.
I am. I'm going to do it though. Okay. To accept the staff
Staff's
recommendation of the for the approval of the variance after the fact for property located at 1 Northeast 87th Street, with the staff conditions of maintaining the property. Or maintaining those hedges at 4 feet at all, or below at all times. Okay, so for that, I will go through the roll call. Member Lightfoot Ward, who, by the way, just joined us. Okay. Member Mayor Omar Nickerson.
Yes.
Vice Chair Louis Perella.
Yes.
Okay, and Chairperson Martin.
Yes.
Okay. You have a unanimous 0-4 vote for the recommendation.
Awesome.
Thank you.
See the clerk, and she'll let you know what the next steps are. We'll move on to item G3. Can I have the applicant for 485 Northwest 89th Street step up to the podium and please state your name and address for the record?
Hello, I'm Mordecai Feinstein for 485 Northwest 89th Street.
Welcome. Thank you for joining us. Can I have staff's recommendation report on this item, please?
Yes. This is, again, another variance for hedges on the side and front yards. The hedges exist, and, sorry, this is... The hedges exist, and the applicant is, again, requesting a variance for after the fact. The hedges in the front yard are approximately 6 feet tall, and also the hedges in the side yard are about that tall as well. These 2 rows of hedges are Calusia, and again, this is similar to the other plant, is Florida-friendly landscape plant. This house is located on a corner lot as well, and the reason for this variance is that the location and the height of the hedges exceed what is allowed by code. The primary justification is also to create, similar to the other applicant, is to create a visual screen from the neighbors. This lot is basically on the border of El Portal and another jurisdiction, and the west side of this house has views directly of neighboring properties, which if you have been to this property, you can see that and I also included some photos in the staff report, that the neighbors' homes are not very well maintained, and there's some spillage of cars in the swales, and also very large overhead power lines that would be visible on this west view from the home. However, the front of the house does face a street in El Portal, and that is not the case in that view. So for my recommendation, it's kind of 2 parts. One is to approve the variance for the hedges on the side yard, which would be on that west side, that west view, but not in the front yard hedges, because there is, again, that he's not experiencing that kind of need for visual screening on there. That is staff's opinion, though, and just wanted to say that there's also one condition, and in this case, to maintain the hedges at no higher than 6 feet, and because that, again, this is a type of plant that can grow pretty tall, up to 25 feet. So that's staff's recommendation.
Thank you so much for that. I'll go ahead and open comments up to the body. Does anyone on the council have a comment about item G3?
Madam
Mr.
Chair,
Mayor.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes.
And this is probably what you're going to ask him, Madam Chair, but why does he feel like he needs the hedges in the front? This would be part of when you ask if they're going to accept the conditions, which is what she recommended, the hedges, on the side, but not in the front. Do you feel like you need the hedges in the front? If so, why do you feel like you need the hedges in the front?
Yeah, so actually the hedges on the west side, which faces, I think, unincorporated Dade, where there's a bunch of dilapidated houses, that was there already, and I think it's been there for years. So that I don't think needs to be.
Well, that she was okay with. She said
Yeah,
that I think
okay.
the hedges that were in the front is
Right.
what she was
Well,
kind
to,
of speaking
to that
against?
point, we put them there specifically because of the issue. As you drive by, you see the dilapidated houses right there. It's visible from the front. And we've had cops, like multiple cop cars dealing with issues relating to the properties across the street. So it just felt unsafe. And this kind of, well, adds to the safety component. We have like weird trashy baggies, different stuff that we've seen, again, mostly on the west side, but even coming around to the front. So it just kind of creates that sort of, I don't know, barrier or the protection from that. And you can see all of it straight from the front. So that's, and which is essentially why we put it there.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right, noted. Councilman Perella, do you have any questions? And also for the gallery, for the guest, excuse me, Mr. Pulliam, we can hear you up here definitely. So you guys can step outside and have the conversation or keep it a little quiet. Thank you so much. Councilman Perella, do you have a comment on the item?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Not really. I mean, I understand the hedges on the west side of the property, like you guys are mentioning about, to actually block the view from that other side of the street, which is not pretty at all. And that's and those are the brand new hedges that have been planted there, the ones in the front.
The front, the west has been there.
The west side, from west side are also new.
No, the west side has been there.
The Calusas,
On the west side, they've always been there.
they've always been there.
Yeah.
That was just to block there.
Yeah.
And not the ones in the front. The ones in the front are the ones you planted. And they're on the property line.
So yes, they're on the property line.
But we
The,
just not allowed.
There are
hedges.
some kind of around the corner hedges that are in the front as well. And then there's the row that's directly in front of the house.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know about these enclosures of the people. Now, a lot of people is enclosing the front of, they wanted to enclose the front of the houses. I think that is actually not a safety issue. It's a safety device or any kind of safety measures. As a matter of fact, without fence, anybody can actually hide behind the bushes, the hedges, and when you come and park, somebody's inside your front yard. So I really don't see that as a deterrent of people crossing or, but other than that, I have no comments.
Okay, thank you so much. Councilwoman Lightfoot Ward, any comments on this item?
Yes, thank you, Madam. The area that is very bad to the site, you think the hedges is gonna change any of that?
Yeah, we see trash outside, and I actually wanted the hedges closer to the street because I wasn't aware of the ordinance, and our landscaper said, oh no, this is good, over here, you need to be back over here. So we see pieces of trash and weird stuff outside. We don't see anything, behind the hedges. And yeah, in theory, someone can go sleep there. We haven't had that. And it definitely adds also to the perception of safety within the property, which, impacts the quality of living there.
Madam Chair, can I ask the question to,
Sure you can. You can do whatever you would like.
hi,
Hello.
always good to see you. Is that on the county side or on our side?
The other side of
Where
the
the
street on the
trash-
west
yeah,
side
where
is the
he's-
county. Mhm.
It's the county.
Correct.
Have you ever reported it to the county?
The other side?
Yes.
I imagine that they know about it. I just, I went about my business, didn't mind.
So your answer is no, I have never contacted the county.
I have not, no.
It is not part of county ordinance to have a property be what you're describing. So my first thought is alienating it with your road, that is your pride, that is your propriety. You have the right to do that. But to not do anything about it is what I'm concerned with, because just as sure as you put up those shades, those hedges, you're inviting more junk on that side. And it's gonna affect your property.
On the Miami-Dade side.
Yes, it's
Well,
gonna
that's-
affect it.
That's a reasonable suggestion. I've never called code enforcement, but that makes sense.
May I?
Sure.
I suggest that you do that. Because when I was having that problem, the county said, why didn't you call? No, I didn't have the problem. ushered the problem with someone else who brought it to my attention. And the county said they had no idea that there was a problem. So let me encourage you doing that, because just as sure as you put up those hedges, don't mean they're gonna come down. That they're not gonna come down, because you're already telling me the people are, what's the word, everybody? Negligible on the county side, but not keeping it up.
Right.
This is just cosmetics for you, but that's not gonna solve the problem. You'd be surprised how much is gonna be behind those hedges. And your report said something similar, that you said something in your report that triggered my mind, that said that it's just for the property, but it's not. Because if you're seeing it now, can you imagine they're gonna be right up against your hedges? It's not curing the problem. You need the
understand.
problem to be cured.
Thank you for the comment, Councilman Lightfoot Ward. We appreciate that. I actually live 2 houses down from your property, and I don't remember seeing those clusias on that side that faces Miami-Dade County. The side on Northwest Fifth, I think there was something else, because we've been there for like 5 years.
Whatever's there is still there. Maybe my engineer put in the report that there's clusias, but it's not. It's something else. The native, whatever that was that's there is still there.
It looks rather different.
Yeah, it's
So
like
I will say this. If you plant it too far out, because there is no sidewalk there, you end up creating a heck of an obstruction to someone who is trying to pull out of that street. So where your hedges are now, I happen to have 2 small kids that I use that street all the time to traverse back and forth to get them to school. If you don't maintain that, it can become a heck of an obstruction. And that is, with this hedge conversation, one thing that I am so sensitive to is people who have young children who are in strollers who walk on these streets, people who have mobility issues that have wheelchairs, and people who are driving who are trying to not be obstructed by random hedges, which happens to me all the time as a short person who happens to be in a car that is way too big for me. But I have these kids and I need to transport them. But anyway, I digress. But I understand the reason to vary from the norm is because there is something that is very unique, and I take staff's recommendation that in this case, a portion of your house is facing houses that belong to a completely different municipality and is not subject to our rules and regulations as far as how you should maintain the house. So I get that. As far as the front of your property is concerned, the front of your property does not suffer from the same issues as that side. So I understand the bifurcation of your approval, saying to approve that portion on the side facing Miami-Dade County and not approving those hedges that are in the front of the property. Because sometimes when you do have these properties that are walled off by hedges, though the person inside of the house may feel safer, it gives the appearance externally of it being an unsafe neighborhood and there being a reason to have to wall these houses off. And if anybody wants to, I'm sure there are tons of studies that you can easily access that shows that that is definitely the outward perception when you come into a neighborhood and everyone's house is kind of, behind these little fortresses. So I do take staff's recommendation, and I do understand why you bifurcated it in that way. So with that being said, I will close the comments for the body and open it up to any of the guests. Does anyone in the audience have a comment on this item? Mr. Pulliam, can you step up to Scarlett's podium, state your name and address again for the record, and let us know what you think?
Thank you. Thomas Pulliam, 205 Northeast 86th Street. I have the same point of inquiry as the previous one. How did this after-the-fact violation come about?
The same way, probably, most likely. Did you get Mr. Mordecai?
Yep.
Did you receive a notification from the code enforcement officer?
Yep.
Yeah, same way.
And my other comment is someone who moved from California and has lived in Los Angeles and San Francisco, some of the highest property values in the entire country. It's entirely common in the expensive neighborhoods like West Hollywood, Beverly Hills, etc., that the properties are totally enclosed in the front.
Yeah, the lot sizes are a little bigger though, right?
Not in West Hollywood.
Okay.
No.
Well, it's a different, I don't want to say different strokes for different folks, but everyone has different rules in different municipalities. And this is the one that exists here. So
Sure.
I
Yeah,
get
just
that.
wanted to make that comment.
No, I appreciate the comment. Thank you so much.
Can I make another comment?
Sure, you can.
So I have another property on 87th Street, and there's properties right next door to me, which, you know, seem to have hedges grandfathered in. And I always thought, like, you know, in line with Coconut Grove and some places and other nice areas, and El Portal is getting nicer, hence why I'm here. To your point about West Hollywood, I found that it actually increases the beauty. Of course, that's, you know, beauty's in the eyes of the beholder. But, you know, I appreciate your assessment of the situation. You know, being at that property fairly regularly, you know, and seeing some of the activity on the other side from the front. I never hang out on the west side, and seeing some of that spill over and pulling up to the property and having that, there's one ugly one right down 89th Street, just like across, right, I'm sure you know which one I'm talking about. It just looks awful. It really, it does kind of, it impacts the value, it impacts the quality of living at the property.
So you're referring to the house that is all the way down the street.
Yeah.
So you're let me just gather what you're saying. You're saying that you can see that from inside of your house. You
No,
can
when you're-
see that one,
when
or when you're
pulling up,
driving.
when you're in the front yard, like by the driveway, and mind you, the hedges on the west side were there. Again, they weren't Kalusha's, so that I guess they got mixed up in the report. The reason, if that wasn't there, I don't know what we would do. But the only reason why we added in the front is because pulling up there and being there at the property. Of course, inside, once you're inside the house, you're inside the house. Most of the house kind of orients towards the backyard anyways. But pulling up there, being there, especially at night, having that right there is very uncomfortable.
So you're saying, you're talking about the particular house that is down the street and like maybe 4 houses down
Has-
from yours?
It has like, well, not on the.
Are you
El Portal,
talking about-
on the Miami-Dade side, like the.
Oh, on the Miami-Dade
yeah,
side.
the
Okay,
shutters
got
are
it.
hanging. El Portal, none of the houses there
Got
are
it.
found to be too, you know.
I thought you were talking about the one on 89th
They're all,
Street,
they're
but
all
yeah.
pretty okay. Some are nicer than others, but the ones right across the street are just treacherous. It's really, it looks like a rough neighborhood, and,
Yeah.
and, you know, for what El Portal is today, that doesn't, you know, jive with that. So, yeah.
But those houses were there when you purchased
The
it?
Miami-Dade side?
Yeah.
Yeah, those houses were
those
there.
are-
Oh, okay.
My hope was, my dream, I guess a little bit childishly, was that some guy would come in. I actually reached out to try to buy them, and no one answered. I think it's someone that, you know, rents it out and lives wherever, so there was no one to really speak to on the other side of that. I was hoping it would like beautify, but you know, that hasn't happened.
Okay. So you knew those houses were there when you purchased the house?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's what the plan was to put in. I didn't know, and that's again the conversation I had with my landscaper. Right? If I knew, I actually reached out to Officer Fitzgerald Officer Fitzgerald Simmons on another property I was looking at in the area to confirm now that I know about the hedges, and I didn't, you know, and the setbacks, and I didn't buy the property because I knew that. Because I knew I'd run into an issue with that, and you know, would have to come up with variance. But that over there, you know, I would have. It's hard to see myself, you know, buying a property across the street from those without having the ability to kind of, you know, put some form of you know, buffer between where we're at and where that is. Especially, you know, again, I don't think that it's patrolled as well as El Portal is, and it's enforced as well. Your recommendation's on point, and I will reach out to the county. Hopefully that, you know, leads to something. But yeah, this is where we're at.
Noted. All right, is there any other comments from the audience on this item? Hearing none, I'll go ahead and close public comment
Before you
and
do,
bring it
Madam-
back to the body. Councilwoman Lightfoot Ward.
Before you close it, we talking about Fifth Avenue?
Yeah.
You
Yes.
live right on Fifth Avenue?
Yeah.
That's always been a problem.
Yeah.
You're not the first person to come in here and say the houses across the street from El Portal, which is Miami-Dade County. That's always been a problem.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
not that we haven't called it in, it's not that I haven't reported it, because I drive down that street to get to my house too. So,
Right.
you're on the same page.
Noted. Do we have a motion to approve staff's recommendation on item G3 at 485 Northwest 89th Street?
Madam Chair, is he willing to accept the staff's recommendation? From what I hear, he was still talking about,
Yeah.
he still wanted something in the front. Is
Yeah.
he willing? Because the staff recommendation was not the front, just the side.
Well, you can go ahead and ask the applicant.
If I may, I don't think the side one should even be in the variance, because it's been there for years. It's not something that I put in. I think it was there before 2018. You live in the area. I don't know, I think it's been there.
I will trust staff's recommendation.
Okay. Do you know if it's been there for years?
Oh, no, I have no idea when those plants were planted.
Okay.
But, right, it's still a violation of the code, so.
Even if it's in there before ordinance was put in?
We don't know the dates,
Okay.
or unless, if you have.
And if I
historical
may,
information.
the reason I'm asking you is because I drove by yesterday and I saw that the portion on the west side and the front,
Yeah.
which is slanted
That's right.
towards the driveway, those look brand new, like just the
Those are-
ones in the front. Those are the ones that we're
Oh,
referring
that's
to.
what, you're not referring
Yes.
to
Yeah.
the oldest?
No,
Ah,
no,
okay,
to the
okay,
ones,
sorry,
yes.
my bad.
Yeah.
So are they new?
Those there, yeah, the
Okay.
Calusas are new. The ones all
Yeah.
the way on Fifth Avenue are the ones I was saying. were there.
Those
Oh,
also
those are the
require
ones we're-
variance, and
those
that's
are the
where,
ones we're
you know.
talking
Got
about.
it, so we're just talking about the Calusas there and there. Got it, okay, understood, my bad.
Are you willing to accept the staff's recommendation with not having the front, but just the side?
Can I say no? I mean, it
No,
would.
it's a vote.
It might be nothing.
It might be
Oh,
nothing.
that's, okay, I've never done this process before. I'm not familiar with.
Yeah,
with
so,
how
so
it
what we're
works.
about to do is, Madam Chair, if I may.
Sure.
What we're about to do is we're about to, she's gonna ask for a motion.
Okay.
One of us is gonna make a motion, and then she's gonna ask for a second. Somebody will make a second. If you get a second, then we're gonna vote on it. Now, what we're trying to decide right now is what exactly we're voting on.
Okay.
Her staff's recommendation was that you can keep the ones on the west side, but she doesn't recommend the ones in the front. If you're willing to accept her staff recommendation, then the motion will be for the staff recommendation of not in the front, but yes on the side. If you're not willing to accept the staff recommendation, anyone up here can not recommend anything for you, or anyone up here can recommend the side and the front, or whatever it is. But before we even get to that point, we just wanted to know if you're willing to accept the staff recommendation. or not.
I got it, rock in a hard place. Well, it sounds like you've made up your mind, so I guess I have to accept, it seems sensible to accept that.
Sir, let me just point out that by accepting the conditions on the record, you do agree that you'll be bound by them moving forward. That does not mean you could never ask to have a further change made, but unless and until something else is approved,
Okay.
you've agreed that you would be bound by the staff conditions moving forward for any enforcement or other purposes.
I understand, yeah,
Are you willing to accept staff recommendation?
yeah.
Madam Chair, for the record, he's willing to accept staff recommendation.
Noted. Do I have a motion to accept staff recommendation on the item G3?
So move.
Do I have a second?
Madam Chair, I'll second, Madam Chair.
All right, Madam Clerk, can I have a roll, please?
Roll call. Member Lightfoot Ward,
Yes.
Member Nickerson,
Yes.
Member Louis Perella,
Yes.
Chair Martin.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Awesome. If you can see the clerk with next steps, that would be great, and we can move forward to item G4. Could the applicant at 176 Northwest 88th Street please step to the podium and state your name and address for the record?
Hello, Scott Kitchen, 176 South Northwest 88th Street.
Patricia Hernandez, same address.
Thank you and welcome. Can I have staff's recommendation on this item?
Yes, this is an application for a lot split to separate one lot into two. The current lot that they're looking at is located at 176 Northwest 88th Street. And today it is close to 20,000 square feet. It's 19,600 square feet in size. The proposal is to have two lots that will be consistent with what is the surrounding lots in the area, which are approximately 9,800 square feet each. This exceeds the minimum required for lots in this lot size in this district. The current property is occupied by one home, which is a house built in 1946. Oops, did that go up? And is about 3,000 square feet in size. It's located approximately in the center.
Mm.
Keep talking.
Are they-
located in the center of the property. And the intent is that this house would be demolished and and there would be 2 new homes built on the 2 new lots. This review was done per the plat submittal and preparation for the code in section 2445, and the applicant has shown good cause for compliance with the land use regulations and the development standards based on this chapter. The granting of the lot split approval as presented is in harmony and general intent of the comprehensive plan, and considering the minimum lot size requirements and the other platted lots within the village. The staff's recommendation is for approval with one condition that that within 1 year of this approval of the plat, that the existing single-family home will be demolished. That is basically because if it would be located right across 2 properties and wouldn't comply with setbacks.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Before we go ahead, I would like to know from the applicant if you're willing to accept staff's, the condition that Scarlett just set forth on the record. Are you willing to accept that on the record as well?
Yes.
Awesome. Good to know. Now I'll go ahead and open the conversation up to the body. Does anyone have a comment or a question for the applicant or for Scarlett? Mr. Mayor, I see no. Councilman Lightfoot Ward, go ahead.
You want a split lot. There's a single-family house already on it. You want to split the lot for what reason?
To provide 2 single-family residences, 1 on each parcel.
Is anyone anybody living on it right now?
Yes.
And they agree with you, or that's you all?
They agree with us. They're actually here.
Well, Madam Chair, it must be me. It must be me. I'm seeing a lot cleared, a house demolished, 2 houses going up, and the people that are there, they're not related to you?
There's no relation, but there is a partnership.
It's a double lot, though. They're on a double,
Yes,
a really big
yes.
lot.
Yeah, I'm familiar. A lot split. Oh, boy, okay. May I ask the attorney a question?
Sure.
Attorney Geller, is this common in your line of work? Is this common, splitting a lot to facilitate a change in housing?
I've seen it. I wouldn't say it occurs a lot because double or triple lots are not typical, but where they exist, I've seen it before. It's not unheard of. I mean, common, it's not a situation that exists often where you mostly when the properties are divided, they're divided to be, if not the minimum size, to be maybe bigger than that, but typically they're even. But where there is a double lot, I've seen it go the other way too, where people, want to acquire the property next to them and do a unity of title. I'm dealing with one right now where somebody's doing that because they want to have, I don't know if it's a tennis court or some kind of a paddleball court or something like that, but where double or sometimes even triple lots do exist, it's not uncommon. That's just a kind of uncommon situation that to have the base factual pattern occur.
Last question. Will you be living on the lot?
No.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay. I don't think we have any more comments from the body, so I'll go ahead and close our discussion and open it up to the audience. Does anyone have a comment on item G4? Hearing none, I'll close it to public comment and bring it back to the body. Does anyone have a motion to accept staff's recommendation on item G4 for the property located at 1676 Northwest 88th Street. Do I have a motion?
I just hope that the two houses are not identical. The houses that you're gonna build in those,
They will
those
be.
three lots.
They will be.
There will be some variation in the two with respect to the pool. We're gonna put a pool on each property, and so we want to, work
But the
with the
front,
sun and.
the frontage is gonna,
with solar
the
path and-
facade is gonna be identical, just a flip,
It's gonna be similar,
Yeah.
it's gonna be tasteful, it's gonna be well done.
because I don't know if you guys noticed, but the one across the street on North Miami Avenue where you have two houses, I've got a lot of, people and relative and, that have come to my house and say, oh, those, they built two new,
They're twins.
They're twins.
Twins.
whether they're like duplexes or something like that. It looks horrible. And it doesn't go with the character of our beautiful village. I mean, I could have bought a house in Doral where all the houses are the same, anywhere else. We actually took our time, 2 years, to actually live in this beautiful neighborhood because all the houses were, different, unique. And now you have all the investors coming in, demolishing the old beauty of, of our neighborhood and building these modern blocks that are not appealing to at least my taste. That's my only comment. I wish we could have actually a restriction where the architectural of the village could maintain, but unfortunately we can't. We went over that with Preservia, and that, it's not something that we can actually do, but.
It's our full intent to have a well-designed homes, and the frontage is a concern of ours, and we will address that to be different.
Point well taken, and now you have a challenge. We look forward to see what it is that you come up with if this item is approved. So I do think, did someone move to accept, can I have someone move to accept staff's recommendation on this item? Or not?
It's
Maybe
more
I
lot
should be asking
coverage,
another
but
question.
It's a lot of, it's more lot coverage, but the size of the property is huge. Each property is gonna have a frontage of about 75 feet, right?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe when someone wants to make another motion to not
No,
accept, to not accept staff's recommendation. I'll let you guys have it.
This is, and so my concern is the same concern as the vice mayor, which is that's why it was, like, I was all gung-ho, but once Councilperson Lightfoot Ward asked them if they were gonna be living there, and they said no, I was like, kind of took the wind out of the sails, because El Portal, for a lot of reasons that people have no idea about, as a matter of fact, the Native American Indian mound back here, I don't know, a lot of people don't know this, was the very first archaeological site recognized in Miami-Dade County history. We have Native American caves back there, dated back 3,000 years, over 3,000 years old, in people's backyards over here.
We're familiar with the mounds.
So when you have just what he's saying, I'm good friends with Mayor Fraga in Doral. I'm good friends with Mayor Bobo in Hialeah. I'm good friends with Mayor Pepe Diaz in Sweetwater. As a matter of fact, we meet once a month. But El Portal cannot turn into a cookie cutter type of neighborhood. El Portal the houses look different, and I like when I walk through, the houses look different, and they don't look the same. And so that's my only kind of concern when it comes to that. But Madam Chair, we'll put them up for a vote. She's going to say
The
something.
applicant has a comment.
May I?
Sure, it might help. It might not, but go ahead.
May I propose that a condition be placed that upon the approval of this, that perhaps that is the challenge, that we would be able to provide different architecture for both parcels?
Oh. Well, okay.
That's a wonderful.
Hey,
condition.
hey, I like that. I like that.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion based on the staff report with the conditions, added with the condition that not in an obscene way or a way that's not realistic, but that the developers also try to, make
Mimic.
both houses different and
Unique.
unique.
I love that. It
unique
takes
in
a
their
woman
ways.
to solve the problem.
There we
I
go.
like that. Very well played.
But I make that motion, Madam Chair. I make that motion.
Okay, awesome. Do I have a second on that motion?
I'll second.
Awesome.
Madam Chair, excuse
Yes.
me, can we just, notwithstanding that that was an offer, just let's be clear on the record that the applicants are accepting that voluntarily proffered condition on the record.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
I love it, Madam Clerk. Can I have a roll call, please?
Roll call. Member Lightfoot Ward,
Cut between two, but I'm gonna give you yes because of the last statement that was made.
Member Nickerson,
Yes.
Member Perella,
Yes.
Chair Martin.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Please see the clerk so that she could give you the next steps. Now we will move on to item G5, outdoor lighting permit. Staff's recommendation on this item, I think, Scarlett, would that be you giving us the?
Yes,
Okay, perfect. We'll just hear staff's recommendation.
thank you. So
Whoa,
I
Sounds
like
really
it. You
loud.
sound different at every turn.
This is a new proposal to address an issue that has been recently brought to staff's attention, that there have been some homes that are experiencing kind of what you call light pollution with outdoor lighting. This is mostly in the single-family area. And the fact that some outdoor lights in homes can be directed in certain ways that kind of have light spillage over into other homes and create nuisances for other neighbors. To kind of address this issue, there was some research done on staff's part to look at ways we could kind of come up with a process. We're planners, so we like permits. So we suggested that that the village would consider to have sort of a permit process for residents wanting to add lighting to their outdoor or even make changes to their outdoor lighting. Just to note, though, that it is already a requirement that they receive building permits for outdoor lighting. But what we would suggest is that we have a process where they could submit sort of site plans and show the directions of the lighting and the lumens that would be projected from the lighting, and make a determination if that would be spilling over onto other properties and review it in that sense. Just to note that as we just had an application for a lot split where there are going to be 2 new homes. These could be 2-story homes, and there's a number of other applications coming through for demo and redevelopment. And I know you guys are aware of this, so you live here, so it's happening. And there is the potential that these lights from sort of like a second story could be impacting other neighbors that are single stories. So it's kind of a little bit of a proactive way to address compatibility and not to have lighting be a nuisance between neighbors. This is really just more of a first step at taking this to you and letting you know that this is what we've come up with in order to address this issue. And in the report, there's a draft copy of what the outdoor lighting permit would look like. Eventually, if it's agreed on and if you would like us to move forward with this could be a form that is put on the website, and it will be fillable. You could type in the information and submit that electronically.
Okay, thank you so much. Do I have a comment from the council on this item?
Yes, Madam Chair, if I may.
Sure.
Just for like a little bit, just for clarification for us as a committee and just like the Village of El Portal as a whole, Madam Manager. So this is a permit. It's just a permit. This is not like a change in code or a change in charter. This is a change in code?
Yes.
To require the permit.
Ultimately, if, as anticipated, it would be something, I mean, we either require it or we don't, and if we require it, it's part of our code. So ultimately, if you go along this path, it would be something that would lead to an adjustment in our code. I'll defer to some degree on that to the code enforcement officer as well. But yes, if you decided that this was something that you wanted to regulate, you do so through your code.
That's right.
Yeah, so Mr. Simmons, with this, right now, anybody can put up the light without checking with us. Is that what it is? And now it would be a permit that they would have to go through before they put the actual light up?
Fitzgerald Simmons, Code Enforcement Department. This recommendation is in addition to our regular permit packet. So when it comes to the exterior and security lights, regardless of it, you need a permit for installation. But with this additional application, it addresses the specifications of the lighting to be in compliance with the city, with the county's ordinance in regards to light pollution.
And that would be a code adjustment?
Um,
Or would it just, is it just a permit where it's part of the actual code that exists now, or is it changing the code?
No. This would be in addition to the code. We're not changing the code. What we're doing is we're just implementing. We're implementing the application.
The application.
To address the specifications of the county code.
So that's what I'm trying to get at, you guys. So everybody said it's a code change. It's not a code change. I know what I'm
No.
talking about.
No.
This is not a code change.
We would probably need to adjust our language to make clear that this is a requirement of the village. Now, the thing is, because there's a county code that regulates it, we're not going to be regulating the number of lumens that can spill, because that's covered by the county code. But to require this would probably require at least some kind of adjustment or amendment in our code. Don't you think that, Mr. Simmons?
No, because in relation to this, it is regulated within the code. What happens is that the county code mandates that there are certain things that need to be submitted as far as from an engineer, to address the amount of lumens in regards to light pollution. The light pollution is the biggest concern, considering it becomes a nuisance to the adjacent properties.
And that's the county code.
And that's the county code. So this application is the village proactively handling, regulating the county's code. Because as of right now, you install exterior lighting, you have to apply for a building permit. The electrical inspector just come out to ensure that it was done in accordance with the Florida Building Code. That's it. In regards to this application, planning and zoning will have engineers drawing that illustrates the amount, the location, the height, the lumens, to ensure that it doesn't violate the light spillage per the county's ordinance.
So it's not like I was saying, you guys, it's not a code. It's not a new code. It's not a code change.
It's just a matter of semantics, Mayor. I mean, you can,
administrative.
if you want to say it that way, you can. It's done administratively here. I think there may be an adjustment, but perhaps not.
All right. Well, I'm trying to get that clear, Madam Chair, because that determines, because if it's a code change, that's a whole different vote.
That's right.
And like I said, I don't think it's a code change, and I didn't think from the beginning. So it's a different way we're looking at this. I think that the furthest that we could possibly go is an all in favor aye or nay, because it's not particularly a code change. Because what we're really looking at here, which we appreciate, but what we're looking at here is an additional document for the process that already exists.
Okay, so as far as how we do it, I do think, I understand what the attorney is saying, but I want to take us a step back as to, like, should we do this, right? So if we already have regulations or some sort of process through which you would have your lighting approved, why exactly are we layering this additional element? I mean, for what purpose? What does this serve?
Primarily to address the specifications of the ordinance. So whenever someone submits a permit for exterior lighting, it's simply just the wiring to ensure that it's done in accordance to the Florida Building Code. But with this additional application, it addresses the specifications with the drawings from the engineers in relations to the light spillage. The code states that light should not spill more than a half a foot candle, which is 0.5. So with these type of concerns, when I come out to conduct an inspection, the light pollution, I take the measurement, and if it exceeds that, then it's in violation. The county ordinance states that prior to installing these type of lights, this is the type of documentations that should have been submitted prior to the approval of the application. So considering that it's not a part of our process, then that's the biggest issue with regulating the code.
Okay.
And may I also add?
Sure. I would love your input on it. too, Madam
Chairperson
Mayor.
Martin, our building official is here to.
Can't hear.
Oh, you can't hear? Okay, our building official, Mr. Pedro Martinez, is also present, so he can address that, because we have discussed this at length internally within the administration. I know there are some things that they do look for in these applications, but I want, if you have some more questions about what is being done presently, perhaps he can address that.
I would love to hear that. What is being done? Just so I understand what is being done and what is the thing that is, the new thing that is being proposed to be overlaid on top of that.
Pedro, please explain the process for the electrical inspector, like what John looks at when he goes to inspect for exterior lighting.
Yeah, well, I'll start by saying the building code.
And your name and address for the
Oh,
record,
yes, I'm
please.
sorry.
Thank you.
Pedro Martinez, but I don't live in the village. I'm the village building official. I prefer to
makes
maintain my address private. 343 Almeria Avenue in Coral Gables. First, the building code requires a light to be installed on every exit door on a property. To avoid accidents at night, people need to see where they're stepping out. And that is mandatory. Now, I know the number of lumens, the building code does not address light spillage, but the county code does. So we have a conundrum. We must install lighting in every building permit. The electrical inspector will inspect if somebody builds a pergola or some other thing in the patio. With lighting, the electrical inspector will inspect. Now, in my opinion, the owner should sign an agreement not to exceed or spill light in the present or in the future after installation, because the owner can change light bulbs later and increase lumens even after doing a whole, well, if we go with requiring an engineering study, it might be violated the following day. But if we have the owner sign an agreement not to violate the light spillage ordinance and spell it in the permit without having them go through the expense of an engineering study, I think would be much more effective. Because we could enforce it, they signed the agreement, just like with the hedges, they signed to keep it at 4 feet.
Thank you.
And
That's
they're
you
informed of it.
mentioned something, the expense. What fees are we looking at, or what additional expense comes along with these types of studies? And then I heard Scarlett say, like, when you change lights,
They can change,
like,
so fees can be very high, especially if I am not sure if you have to measure the neighbors after you install, but if you install an engineer will not come for free, and many neighbors will not want an engineer in the backyard measuring light. So it may cost several $1,000s just for the study.
Oh.
That can be violated, as I said, the next day. So it would become almost prohibitive for somebody to install lighting in the backyard. It's something that's now very inexpensive. People complain about the electrical permit, but we can put that as a condition for approval of the permit, that they don't exceed the light spillage. If the neighbors complain, they must comply right away.
That would be a condition on the existing permit.
We can issue a new permit with that condition too.
Okay. Without adding the additional permit that we're talking about tonight. Just make that clear.
Correct.
Okay. All right. No, that's good to know. Thank you so much. I appreciate that
So it
insight.
is, if you're installing lighting for your landscape, it's a regular electrical permit that we already have, so we don't need to change the code for that. But we can add that condition.
That
If
makes
anything
sense.
that's outside, we add the condition, and people must comply. And I think it would help both ways, and people don't have to go
I
with
appreciate
enormous
you.
expenses.
Now I have a question for Officer Fitzsimmons. How big of an issue is this? Like, are we receiving like numerous complaints from many residents about light spillage?
No, one and just one.
Just one complaint?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Alrighty. Thank you so much. That's my questions. Does anyone else have comment? Anyone else on the council?
Madam Chair, we're talking about light spillage. We're talking about any resident, not the government. We're talking about any resident wanting to have spillage, wanting to have more lights than necessary on their property. Is that right? Am I on cue?
We're talking about, I think there's one complaint about light spillage. And because of that one complaint, what's being proposed is adding on an additional layer of permitting that also might be cost prohibitive to the regular resident that is desiring to either install lighting on their landscaping or in their backyard. So we just have to think about whether or not the expense that we're going to be handing off to the residents is one that is, I suppose, necessary or agreeable in a situation where there seems to be not that many people complaining about it. So we just kind of have to weigh that.
Yeah, because I'm thinking more, I'll be through in a minute. I'm thinking more about when events happen and all this spillage occurs. And
I think he's talking about like day to day, not like a special event, right? We're talking about just like regular, these are my landscape lights. Security, yeah.
okay, what's wrong with the floodlights we got now?
No, we're talking about two residential properties, someone installed security lights, for additional.
I thought that's what we were talking about. That's what I'm trying to get at. Because if it, I understand. I can just imagine, because I've passed when residents are having these parties. It don't matter if it's back door or front door. There's light spillage, lots of it. So are we talking about something that the county puts in or something that the residents do when they want to have a big party and light up basically half the block?
No, it's in relations to residents installing security and flood lighting.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, not nothing special events, regular security lighting for.
What's your take on it? Up or down? Since you're the code person, you would know, because that's who they're gonna be looking for. That person did so and so and so, and I got too much light in all the properties. I got too much light when they do stuff.
My job is to enforce the code the way it's written. So as long as the lights are permitted and it doesn't exceed the foot candle, the light spillage, I see no issue with it.
All right. I'm more concerned about the light spillage than I am actually the infrastructure change. That's all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So light can spill as long as it doesn't exceed a half a foot candle.
Thank you so
that's
much.
what I measure.
Attorney Geller has a comment. I'll take
Yeah,
it to you and then bring it back to the body.
Just as to the point that Councilperson Lightfoot Ward raises, it's not, and you hit you say it right when you say it's the spillage that you're concerned with. Just to clarify, it's not a regulation that affects how much light you can have on your own property. You can have as much light on your property in your backyard, even if it's coming in through your windows and maybe keeping you up. But you can do that in your own property. So just to clarify that. But then when you got further in the conversation, you start talking about the spillage. It's when it leaves your property. So if you have a way of either directing or shielding or something, if you can keep the spillage within the regulations that the county has set, that our code enforcement officer and our building official are talking about, if you can keep it so it doesn't go on another property, I just want to clarify, it had nothing to do with how much light you can have on yours. It's just when it crosses the property line that it has to be in compliance, as Mr. Simmons says. And then the issue is, does the neighbor who's being affected have an issue with it, and do they complain? I mean, you can have spillage that somebody doesn't object to if it, you know, it goes into their parlor and they're not worried about their parlor because it doesn't affect their bedroom, something like that. But it's, you hit it right when you say the spillage, and I just want to clarify that because of the way you phrased the first question.
Thank you.
Attorney Geller, I have a question for you, a follow-up on that.
Yes, ma'am.
As far as what our building official proposed,
Yes.
like how to handle this, can we add that condition onto the existing permit that they would get through the building department, saying that you cannot have spillage, so that if there is a neighbor that is negatively impacted by spillage, they can use that as a recourse to then get relief in that issue, with that issue?
I think the answer to the question, the way you phrased it, is yes, but there are a lot of conditions that limit that. You start with the fact that if there is spillage, it must be below the level, or it's not permitted by law, and we have nothing to say about that. It's
Mhm.
a county ordinance that's binding on everyone across the county. Certain things the county does can only apply where, you know, like in unincorporated, but there are a lot of things they have that they preempt. This is one of them. So you're starting from that. Now, again, as you know, the mayor's point was that we're not really changing the code, and I think that's probably correct in a sense, but we are changing the process by which someone can have lights legalized, how that they can get a permit for what they're putting in, and that is enforced through our code enforcement process. But it's a case where our code officer is basically charged not only with enforcing our code, but enforcing this provision of the county code. Now, I guess one could say, and that seems to be the flavor here, that this is just an administrative regulation that's relevant to the process for issuing these permits. Certain things we can do, and some things we do that people don't agree with, and that's why we're blessed to live in a country where people with black robes who are independent get to make those decisions, and it can't be arbitrary, but we do have certain rights, and I'm a little loath to predict exactly how a given judge would rule if there was a particular charge. We try to avoid that. But we do certainly have administrative, a certain amount of administrative
Authority.
yeah, I was going to say really administrative discretion that we're able to apply. I have to say that the suggestion that we seek to get people to accept voluntarily, like we did in the last case where there was a voluntary proffer, it was not a result of us trying to force someone, but somebody voluntarily proffered. If we could do that, that would certainly help to insulate us from any possible attack on what we're doing. And I do think we have some administrative discretion, and I guess you could say that's not really changing the code, it's just changing how we enforce the code. But the fact that it's a county ordinance really is a complicating factor here. So there are some things we can do, but in any set of circumstances, however you get there, the county code is binding on us and it has to be enforced. This suggestion, as I understand it, is that we add some additional administrative processes. And if I'm understanding it correctly, and I'm not 100% certain of that, I could characterize it this way, but I invite staff to correct me. Rather than wait for there to be a complaint, which would have to be investigated and determined if a violation existed of the provisions of the county code, this is an attempt, I think someone used the term proactive, to be proactive to make sure before lights are installed that they're not going to be installed in a fashion that violates the county code. We're trying to stop that up front by having an additional process which currently doesn't exist, because now they're only having an electrical inspection to make sure it complies with the Florida Building Code, and we're not up front determining whether or not it's also violative of the county code.
Awesome.
Is that?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you so much for that. So I'll go ahead and give another round to the council. Does anyone have a comment on this item before I open it up to the public? No? So I'll open it up to the public. Does anyone in the audience have a comment? Mr. Pulliam, if you could step up to this podium and state your name and address for the record.
Hello again, Thomas Pulliam, 205 Northeast 86th Street. I am the one person who's reported light spillage. I've reported it 4 neighbors. 3 of them have corrected it. I'm actually not mad at this proposal, but what I'm curious about is, since all the information about a nuisance light, the required shielding of it, including needing, an engineer or someone authorized to confirm that light spillage is not occurring before it's up consistently. All of that is currently within Miami-Dade code. It seems as if historically the process for El Portal for getting permits for security lights has not asked for the engineer sketch or that required information. So to me, hearing this, it does seem to make sense why there would be a form now kind of specifically laying out, but at the same time, why was that not occurring before? Because that's always been part of the Miami-Dade code. And yeah, it sounds like it hasn't been checked, right? Because it's just been an electrician making sure that the wires are fine. Not all the other stipulations in the code have not been enforced.
Thank you for your comment.
Thank you.
All right, is there any other comment from the audience on this item? Hearing none, I'll close it to public comment, bring it back to the council. Does anyone have a motion on this item or additional questions for staff?
You have something to say, Mr. President? As for the comments of Mr. Geller, for Attorney Geller, what I intended to say is we put an acknowledgement and acceptance. So we actually put a stamp with the actual wording of the code, and the owner acknowledges reading it and accepting the regulation. So in the future, it remains enforced. That's what I propose.
And just to be clear for the record, Madam Chair, that's what I was saying seems to be, that would be a good thing. I don't want to say that should be the only thing, or that's to the exclusion of anything else, or we shouldn't otherwise have an additional form or anything like that. However, that particular suggestion, as I said, anytime you can get someone to voluntarily accept something, it certainly strengthens our hand should enforcement be necessary. Now, that may be the only thing we need to do. That may be part of what we need to do. And I'm not suggesting that doing that means that we shouldn't take a look or we shouldn't have another form. That's for you to decide. But I do think that trying to get some voluntary acceptance and compliance by itself, that's helpful.
And thank you so much for the clarification. And now for the council, do we have a motion? I think essentially, let's take it back to what staff is talking about and recommending, is adding this new form and new procedure to flesh out this process and make sure where whoever's installing these lights is in compliance with the code in Miami-Dade County as well. Do we have a motion on that? Do we want to accept this recommendation, go forward with fulfilling, putting forth this new form? Do we have a motion on that?
Madam Chair, if I may.
Sure,
quickly.
go ahead.
It doesn't necessarily come with an additional fee, does it? Like I know certain permits come with, like in the building department, certain permits come with a permit fee, but there's no permit fee attached to this permit form. This is just another permit form to be more detailed about what's already in existence, basically.
This, as it is proposed right now, it's not on the form, but it definitely, generally speaking, there are fees associated with permits, and that, you know, something that could be talked about in the future if you want to move forward with this.
That'd be information that I would need to
Yes.
move forward with it.
In addition to that, I know, are we asking an applicant to engage a professional? And if so, like, do we have an idea of how much that engagement would cost them?
Yes, it would be a professionally prepared plan, but I don't have any cost estimates to say what that would be.
Okay, well, it
Yeah.
seems like maybe we would need those costs to move forward. So should we defer this item until the next planning and zoning meeting? I think we've got a great foundation. Can I make that motion? Let's go ahead and I move to go ahead and defer this item. Let me just be very particular in what I'm deferring. Deferring item G5 to the next Planning and Zoning Committee meeting, and I would instruct staff to come back with some idea of whether or not there will be a permitting fee, and if so, around what are we talking? And in addition to that, whomever is the lighting specialist that would need to be engaged, we would want to know how much would that cost be, so we know how much we're proposing that our residents pay for this service. So do I have if I'm moving, can I have a second on that one?
I'll
Just for the
second.
item? Perfect. Do I need a roll call on that, Madam
You
Clerk?
can do all in favor.
Or all in favor? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so we'll move forward to item G6, the lot coverage discussion. Scarlett, I think you're up again. Thank you so much.
Great. This is just wanted to kind of start a discussion on this and get some direction, I guess, really from your end. We have, at this point, we've been receiving several different kind of interpretations of how different design professionals have been submitting site plans and calculating lot coverage. There seems to be really a consensus on impervious versus pervious coverage. However, there are certain exceptions that are currently included in the definition of lot coverage that have been a little bit not everybody's interpreting them the same way. I'll say that. So the definition is in Article 10, which states that lot coverage is the area of the lot occupied by all buildings, excluding structures such as decks, pools, and trellises. And just to note that we have some differences of opinion from different professionals that are not including driveways when they're looking at the the lot coverage. And most driveways, I mean, there are different materials to construct a driveway. However, the majority of them are impervious surfaces. And so we've, at staff level, when we review these site plans, we are taking a more conservative approach and have been including driveways in the impervious lot coverage. And we have definitely requested this item come before you tonight, just for discussion purposes. And if so desired by you, to make a small amendment in the code of ordinances that would change the definition of driveways, that would the definition of lot coverage, that would define better the impervious surfaces would be included in lot coverage. And also there is some stretching of the exclusion for the deck exclusion that I would request that you look at defining that better, such as including the word or describing it as a wooden deck, which would not be, which would be pervious surface, which makes sense for that to be excluded.
Thank you so much for that. I remember that we had quite the conversation about that with an applicant. So as I'm concerned, I think it would be a great move for us to move towards having a more fleshed out definition of that. And I think from the report, from what I understand, this is the same definition that Biscayne Park is using. Is that correct?
Biscayne Park does pervious versus impervious, and stops there. They don't have any exclusions or any other lot coverage definitions, or that it's just straightforward, pervious versus impervious.
And then this amendment that you're proposing would get us closer to that level of certainty. So I suppose the developer or an architect would look and have a very clear idea of what we were calculating in impervious versus non-impervious surface. Okay.
Right.
I get that. Does anyone else on the council have a question for Scarlett on this item?
I do, Madam Chair.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. So Scarlett, when it comes to driveways, there's one of the things that that could actually be pervious, right? If they do go ahead with the materials that it could be, would that, so that wouldn't be counted as a lot coverage in the event that they want to extend, and the house or anything like that.
Yes, if you have
Or
a
build a
pervious
pool or
driveway, then we would go, that wouldn't be considered lot coverage, no.
Perfect. Thank you. That's
Awesome.
all, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much. So it seems like the Councilman Lightfoot, do you have anything on this item?
Yes.
Sure.
Are most driveways impervious right now?
It seems that way. I'm doing inspections, and there's been a lot of new driveways in the village, and most of them are made of impervious materials, yes.
Does that mean with the tar or with the plat, what's the stuff called?
Asphalt, marble,
It's asphalt. That's what we're talking about,
pavers,
asphalt.
concrete.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I was, I'm gonna be nice. I was cautioned to repave my driveway. And now you're talking about impervious. I have a tarred, I don't have a tarred, I have a tar surface. I don't have a concrete surface or anything like that. I have a tar surface. And all I wanted to do was expand it, but the person explained to me that the water drain off would end up being a puddle. So I asked, so how do I update my driveway? He said, you just have the person come out and put another tar on top of it. That would still make it impervious, right?
Correct, yes.
All right, thank you.
Now, I do have another question. Pavers on sand, is that considered impervious or pervious?
There are some leeway in that it's not 100% because the water can come through, but it's not a pervious surface. There's standards, manufacturer standards that you could point to, and they tell you really what the percentage is that could be considered somewhat impervious. Sorry, pervious.
Oh, okay, perfect, thank you.
Thank you so much. Seeing no other comments from members of the body, I will open it up if anyone in the audience has a comment on this. No, I'll close the public comment. I'll go over to our building official for a comment on this item.
Yeah, again, Pedro Martinez, building official, 343 Almeria Avenue, Coral Gables. I'm here to support the staff proposition. The current definition creates a lot of confusion, especially for new projects, when at the end, because the exceeding the impervious area, drainage of the property becomes extremely expensive. And the plans are already approved, and civil review rejects the approval. People make drawings, and then when they're ready to finish the property, they're begging for variances to flood their neighbors. So, and we cannot approve them, and you're talking tens of thousands of dollars in drainage because the exceeding the impervious area. So it is very important that I really support her proposition. It helps everybody. So you're playing on an easy, clear field since the beginning.
Thank you so much for your insights. I love this kind of a comprehensive looking at the user experience when they desire to make some changes. And also everything and anything that we can do to move towards certainty so that more of the language found in our codes are just really clear as to what is expected. So I appreciate you putting this item on the agenda, and I think the consensus is that we definitely want to engage in conversations that move us closer to that level of certainty. So I'm assuming what you're going to do from this point is actually draft up some of the proposed language, and we would see that in the context of a future council meeting. Is that the procedure that you're?
Yes,
you're
it would come before you as a code amendment.
Mm-hmm.
The do I have it here? I think I.
Now, let me ask this question. As far as the setback goes inside the property, which right now is 5 feet, is that something that is standard across the county, or, because I just heard, I just had somebody, a customer that they were saying, I think they were in Miami Lakes or somewhere that they lived, that they needed a 7 feet setback for, at least for the shed. So that's their new regulation. So I don't know if it's a setback for the entirely property around the property, or it's just for certain units or applications so it's a 5 feet standard across the county, or is it?
That's a good question. It really varies so much.
Okay.
All cities are really different. Yeah. But I wouldn't say that I've ever seen anything less than 5 feet.
Right.
It's either
Attorney-
more, 5 feet or more. Yes.
Thank you for that, Scarlett.
Thank you
Attorney
for that.
Geller, I think you have a comment.
Yeah, just that what I agree with what Scarlett said, Ms. Hammonds said. There's a lot of variation in different places in the county, and sometimes you'll actually find places where they've changed it, and half the town is grandfathered in and half is not.
Right.
So there's that too. But there's, to say that there's a standard, I mean, it just depends where you are, and side and front setbacks are not the same, and
Right.
depending on what's behind you, rear setbacks can, I mean, really, there's no standard.
There's a lot of variance. Well, thank you so much, Scarlett. We appreciate you. I think you know what we would like to do for G6. It's not an item that we're voting on, but we appreciate you updating us on that. And then with that, we'll move on to H. This is our last good and welfare for the evening. So if anyone in the audience has something that they would like to say, please step up to the podium and state your name and address for the record. We'd love to hear what you think.
Hi, Thomas Pulliam, 205 Northeast 86th Street. I actually thought there was going to be a beginning good and welfare, which there wasn't, so I had segmented my topics into two, but I'm just going to run through them quickly now.
There you go.
First, what happened to Pluserbia? When did we change companies for planning and zoning?
Madam Manager, can you give us an idea of the date?
It was several months ago. Pluserbia is still with the village, but they're only doing planning.
Okay.
We contracted with Corradino Group to handle only zoning. They had the capabilities of doing zoning inspections, which we were not able to do with Pluserbia, so that's why the change.
Okay, great. Thank you. My second topic, when is the next planning and zoning meeting? Because I have a variance request that's in for a fence and hedges to enclose my property after many incidents, and I'm also have a large setback, small backyard. That's also why I've been experiencing the light trespass into my house specifically. And my house is from 1936, so one of the very original ones here, and then of course everything built around it. When could we expect the next planning and zoning meeting?
So we don't have a set date. We usually try to batch them together. We never go longer than 2 months without having a meeting. But I would anticipate having another planning and zoning meeting sometime in March. I think that there are enough applications that are out there that we can reasonably hold a meeting. The reluctance sometimes is there might be one item for in queue. We try to batch them for efficiency, but it shouldn't be longer than 2 months. I anticipate having one in March.
Okay,
hopefully
great.
that answers the question.
Yeah, 100%. Thank you.
Next one.
Since I have that variance in process, this next question is related to that. So I spoke with Scarlett, and Scarlett's someone who works with Scarlett, I forget her name, in regard to my application, which is both a request for fence and hedges. The assistant for Scarlett told me that they would treat it in one single staff report, but they also said it's 2 separate variance requests, so I would have to pay separately. So, which, as you know, with the fees and the advertising costs, it's $900 to do a variance process. So my question is, is that standard where you can't combine any variances when it's related to the same ordinance, which in our code it says hedges or fences have to be require this variance process. So I'm attempting to do it together. It's a fence and a hedge that would live in the same area, same geography, same line. Can that be treated as one, or is that really 2 separate ordinances?
I've never seen them
variances?
treated together, and I'm assuming that the reason is because you could get approved for one, not approved for the other. I don't know, but maybe Scarlett can let us know why we are not doing them together, but I've never seen a fence and a hedge together personally. I don't know if anyone else on the council can opine. He's seeking a variance for the fence and hedge, and he was told that he has to apply separately and pay separate fees, and he's wondering if he can consolidate.
I mean, it makes sense because it's twice the work. We do, we review each one on its own, and that does take more time.
Okay.
So if somebody has 3 or 4 variances, then that's 3 or 4 times as much work, and they're different. They're different issues. So we do a different.
I can see that. Does that answer your question?
That makes sense what you said, but that's not what your assistant who called me on the phone this week told me. She said she would treat it within the same staff report, but I would need to, pay for 2 variances.
It's one staff report, correct.
Yeah.
But we've done a few of those tonight already where we have multiple variances in one report.
Oh, okay, and so those applicants are paying for multiple variance fees,
Yes,
not
correct.
just
I
one
think she's talking
$900?
about the work. She's because they have to do an analysis for the fence and then do an analysis for the hedge. and they're presenting it to us in the same report, but they've done 2 different sets of work. I think that's what Scarlett's
Correct,
trying
yes.
to let us know. Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
and the other applicants paid for different variances, yes.
Okay, great. Thank you for that clarification. My next one is regarding to Miami-Dade County ordinances. We kind of touched on a little bit with the permit application that was proposed today. But this is something I met with the mayor, manager, village code enforcement, building official about back in November, and have been following up since. Specifically, the Miami-Dade Code of Ordinances talk about a nuisance light and that's why it talks about needing it to be shielded and not passing the half-foot candle trespass limit. So currently, although Miami-Dade Code says, you know, a light can't be there if it's a nuisance to an adjacent property, which is my case, that is not currently being enforced by our code enforcement. I was told it's technically a zoning ordinance. And yeah, so my question is, what is the definition for nuisance light? Is it more than just the adjacent property? In this case, me saying, hey, that light's bothering me and it's trespassing more than half a foot candle? Or is there more that goes into that, which is the reason why this Miami-Dade Code for nuisance light is not being enforced?
That's a very in-depth and technical question that I definitely don't have the answer for you as far as what is the objective criteria to reach the level of being a nuisance light. I'm not sure if anyone in the room can speak on that offhand, but that is something that we can look into and then get back to you on.
Yeah, so I mean, it has been something I brought up again in November that has somewhat been looked into. These lights are shining into my windows all night long. They're not on motion sensors. They're raised above the, there's a 6-foot privacy fence, but it's raised way above that, like at the line of the roof. And it's, the highest luminance floodlight possible, just all night bearing down. Now, some of the lights are in half-a-foot candle trespass, so they are currently being enforced to the Miami Code in regards to half-a-foot candle. But that same Miami-Dade Code also says about, if it's a nuisance to an adjacent property, then you also, can't have it permitted without a public hearing and all this other requirements, which is not currently being enforced. Despite me, vocalizing this since, I believe, May last year to code enforcement.
No, definitely. And I understand how frustrating that must be. But as far as it relates to me, and I think most of the members on this body, I wouldn't be able to give you specific guidance on that. And one thing I do want to do is make sure that whatever I tell you is actually true. So that's a question that needs a bit of research. And I would ask that you trust that I will do what needs to be done as far as trying to get you an answer on that. But off the top of my head, I have no idea what would be the objective criteria for a nuisance light.
No, I totally get that, and I
will know.
appreciate that.
Oh, Attorney Geller.
Madam Chair, this is something that the gentleman's presented. The administration has been reviewing it. We've had some internal meetings that have involved me as recently as just last week.
Awesome.
And we're looking at that issue, and we're going to try and respond to Mr. Pulliam. But, I mean, we met on it. Most recently, we've talked about it a couple of occasions. As we indicated when we had that whole discussion, because it's a county code issue and not our code, it is a little more complicated than usual.
I imagine.
But we are working on that as recently as like I said, we met on it last week, 4 of us, and or 5 of us maybe. And we're trying to craft an appropriate response to a number of very particular questions that the gentleman has asked.
I imagine. All right, so there is a bit of a response, and hopefully we can get you a full response soon. But do you have another item?
I do. And who would I follow? Would I follow up with you in regards to the response for the nuisance light now?
You can send me an email.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
great.
For sure.
My next comment, also regarding light trespass. One of the lights, which is trespassing onto my property from the adjacent property, I only have 3 feet separate on the property line separating my building from the end of my property. and then that house, which is currently has 1.2 foot candles trespassing, which is more than double the allowed amount. So that was enforced by code enforcement, and then was corrected, and then since has been recorrected, where it is again shining 1.2 foot candles. And code enforcement is not treating that as a repeat violation, even though it's the same light in the same location, creating the same effect with the same amount of light spillage. So they have, again, another 30 days to correct that, although this has been an ongoing issue with them for 4 or 5 months. And so they just are correcting it in that way, and then our ordinances around repeat violation don't appear to be followed in that regard.
Noted. Fitzsimmons isn't in here right now, but I'll be sure to let him know, and then you can add that in your list of what you're emailing me. Do you have another one?
Yeah, one more. So this is a different subject regarding permit processes, owner-builder affidavits in specific. So my property, again, 1936 property, I'm doing a remodel on it, the entire thing. And the septic tank, as we were demoing the oldest part of the property, we discovered that the septic tank was starting to back up into the property. And so what needed to be done was replace the drain field. The owner-builder permit instructions live on the El Portal website on the building department page. It's literally building affidavit instructions. Says at the very bottom, you can do an emergency repair if you apply for a permit within the next business day, which I did. What has happened is the village rejected that builder-owner permit application, which their reason was that you need a county contractor with the health department to an approved contractor to do that. However, that is not accurate information. It's actually a confusion of it. You need, if you go to the Florida Gov Department of Environmental Protection, their website, the very front thing where it says who can do septic tank work, the very first item is an owner-builder on their home area. The second item is a licensed contractor, and then there's a third item there. So you could, you need the health department person to inspect after it's done and complete a state level form with their signature saying that everything was done correctly. However, it's incorrect that you cannot do septic tank repair work as an owner-builder. So my application as owner-builder affidavit was rejected. I then followed up hounding the licensed plumber contract, hey, sign this, get it notarized, give me all this information so I can go through the other route. And so I submitted my builder-owner affidavit on the 25th of January, which was a day after the work was completed, per the emergency repair guidelines. It was rejected via Cap Government, and the building department told me, you can't do this as owner-builder, has to be a registered contractor with the health department, which is not what the people at the health department and the state who I've been in contact with have told me. So now, as a result of this, I have a fine on my property for doing work without a permit because my owner-builder application that I did as an emergency repair within 24 hours of having the work done by a licensed plumber was rejected. And it appears that it was rejected because of it is a little bit confusing. I've been having to navigate all the different ins and outs of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's currently the case.
It seems like you've had a very eventful 2024. So I understand how that whole process could be tiring and confusing. I would add that as the third thing on the list that you're going to email me so we can give you an exact recitation of exactly why things worked out the way they did. Okay?
Okay.
Awesome. Do you have another thing on your list, or is that the last one?
So are you, with that last comment, you're saying that is the correct process, how it should have
I
went
don't know the
down?
process.
Okay.
CAP government would have to tell you the process, but that is something in a conversation that we can engage with you and I and CAP government, and not necessarily everyone else. And you can have a chance to really dive deep into the issue as far as what happened and how it occurred. And I
Okay,
think
yeah, that would be really
a
helpful
better
because I have been in
resolution for you.
contact with CAP government and it's just been all over the place, inconsistent
just go ahead and
information.
send me
And they've
those
also been
emails.
extremely unprofessional, very frustrated in their
Okay.
communication.
Okay.
And giving a lot of misdirection.
No, those are all good things to know, right?
In
Because
fact, I would like the village to know I've also had to be in contact twice with the owner of CAP government, Carlos Pinnon, in regards to the unprofessionality and misinformation of his employees of, you know, what they have been
And that is-
communicating or not communicating. And I would like all the council people to be made aware of that.
And that is well within your rights. If someone treats you in a way that you do not appreciate, you should report it as such. As it relates to those 3 items that you specified, please send me that email and we'll go through the process. Okay?
Yeah, thank you so much.
No worries. Thank you. Do I have anyone else in the audience that would like to comment during good and welfare? Seeing no takers, I will go ahead and close out good and welfare. And I think we have so I will close it out to the audience. I'll bring it back to the body. Councilman Lightfoot Ward has a comment. Go ahead.
I wouldn't be having this comment, but I need to say it out loud. I don't see the code enforcement person anymore. Did he already leave? I've still got that boat in my front yard, that boat on my street in the front yard. Not good. Thank you.
Awesome. With that comment, we're going to move on to adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn the February 6, 2024 Planning and Zoning meeting?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second that, Madam Chair.
All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed say nay. All right, meeting is adjourned at 8:28 p.m.